Between being 7 and 17, between being 7 and 17, you stopped being a kid. And you're not entirely sure when it happened or who said it was okay. Nobody handed you a role. You just took it. Because somebody had to. And here's what nobody told you. That version of you never left. It's still here. Still running the show. And it's exhausting in a way you can't quite put into words. Let me paint a picture and see if it lands. To make yourself small when the energy shifted. To disappear. To manage. To fix. To hold it together. Because the alternative was everything falling apart. Maybe you were making dinner for younger siblings at an age when you should have been worried about homework. Maybe you became the emotional translator between two adults who should never have put that on you. Maybe there was no single dramatic event, just a slow, quiet accumulation of moments where your needs consistently came last and everyone else's came first. And the strange thing is, you didn't resent it. Not really. You just adapted. You got very, very good at it. Fast forward to now. You're the reliable one. The one people call in a crisis. The one who handles things without being asked. Who anticipates what everyone needs before they voice it. Who keeps the peace in every room you walk into. And from the outside, that looks like strength. That looks like maturity. But from the inside, if you're honest, it feels like something else entirely. It feels like a job you never applied for and can't figure out how to quit. Here's what was actually happening to you back then, in terms your younger self never had access to. When a child is placed, or places themselves, in a role that belongs to an adult, their nervous system adapts. It has to. The brain of a child rewires itself based on what the environment demands. And if the environment demands constant vigilance, constant caretaking, constant emotional management, the brain builds itself around that demand. What it produces isn't maturity. That's the thing most people get wrong. What it produces is a survival adaptation. A child's nervous system learning to run in crisis mode as its default setting. Not because the child chose it. Because the child's brain did what brains do. It learned what the environment required, and it optimized for that. Think of it like a computer that gets configured for one specific, high-pressure task and runs that program on startup every single day for a decade. By the time you're an adult, that program isn't something you consciously run. It just runs. In the background, automatically. Whether you need it or not. And here's the part that matters. The environment that required that program no longer exists. But the program is still running. That bone-deep tiredness you carry, the kind that sleep doesn't fix, the kind that follows you into weekends and holidays and moments that should feel restful, that's not weakness. That's what happens when a nervous system has been operating on high alert since childhood. It never learned what it felt like to actually stand down. Here's the part that might genuinely surprise you. The things that are hardest for people who grew up too fast are never the big things. The big things, the crises, the emergencies, the moments that bring other people to their knees, those they handle almost effortlessly. They've been training for those since they were 8 years old. It's the small things that undo them, asking for help, sitting still without feeling guilty about it, being silly, being irresponsible in a low-stakes, completely harmless way, letting someone else carry something for once. Those feel dangerous. Not intellectually. They know they're not dangerous. But in the body, in the nervous system, they register as a threat. Because rest once meant things might fall apart. Vulnerability once meant exposure. Needing something once meant being a burden in a home that was already overburdened. So the system flags those things as unsafe. Even now. Even when you're safe. And here's the counterintuitive truth about your relationships. You might find yourself drawn to people who need you. People who are struggling, who are emotionally unavailable, who require a level of patience and management that most people would walk away from. And before you judge yourself for that pattern, Understand where it comes from. Being needed feels like love. Because for a long time it was the only version of love available to you. You learned that your presence was valuable when it was useful. That connection was conditional on contribution. So when someone shows up and simply loves you, consistently, without emergency, without requiring you to earn it, it doesn't feel like love. It feels suspicious. It feels like waiting for something to go wrong. Because unconditional was never part of the original equation. That's not a character flaw. That's a logical outcome of an early education in love that was missing a crucial chapter. Let's talk about what this cost you. Because the world doesn't ask that question. The world actually rewards people who grew up too fast. Society loves the self-sufficient ones, the high-functioning ones, the ones who don't need much and produce a lot. Employers love you. Friends rely on you. You move through the world looking extremely capable. But nobody asks what it cost to become this way. Nobody sees the mental load running constantly underneath. Nobody notices that you've been managing everyone else's emotional weather while privately drowning in your own. And the loneliness of that, being surrounded by people who care about you and still feeling completely unseen, that's one of the quietest, heaviest parts of this. Not because the people around you don't care, but because you got so good at making everything look fine that nobody knows to look closer. And asking them to look closer feels like admitting you failed at the one thing you built your identity around. Here's the reframe I want to offer you. What you developed wasn't weakness dressed up as strength. It was genuine resourcefulness, genuine empathy, genuine capability, forged under circumstances that demanded more than any child should have to give. The kid who held everything together did an extraordinary thing. The problem was never the strength. The problem is that the strength was never supposed to be permanent. It was supposed to be temporary. A bridge across a difficult time. Not a way of life that follows you into every room for the rest of your days. You were never meant to carry it forever. You just never got told when you could put it down. So what do you actually do with this? Two things. Both hard, both worth it. First, grieve what you didn't get. Not in a bitter way. Not in a way that rewrites everyone involved as a villain. But honestly. Because there is something real to grieve here. There's a version of your childhood that didn't happen. A version where you got to be messy and needy and carefree and still completely loved. That kid deserved that. Acknowledging that isn't ingratitude. It's honesty. And honesty is where healing actually starts. You can love the people who raised you and still grieve what they couldn't give you. Both things are true at the same time. Second, start separating your worth from your usefulness. This is the longer, slower work. Because the belief that you earn your place by what you produce, by how well you manage, by how little you need, that belief is woven into almost everything. How you work, how you love, how you rest, how you receive. But here's the truth underneath it. You were worthy before you were useful. You were worthy at 8 years old, before you figured out how to hold the household together. That worthiness was never actually contingent on your performance. It just got explained to you as if it was. You are allowed to need things. You are allowed to not have the answer. You are allowed to be the one who falls apart sometimes and lets someone else do the catching. You're not failing at so they could feel safe. They did so they could feel safe. They did something remarkable. They survived something that was never their responsibility to survive alone. But they can rest now. The emergency is over. The household doesn't depend on you anymore. You don't have to manage everyone's emotions to earn your place in the room. You don't have to be the most capable person in every situation to justify taking up space. You are allowed to be a beginner at being taken care of. Because that's genuinely what you are. The fact that you're an adult doesn't mean you've already learned this. You never got the chance to learn it. So be patient with yourself as you do. The heaviness you've been carrying since you were small. It was never yours to carry alone. It was placed on you before you were big enough to consent to it. You're big enough now to set it down. What would it feel like to finally let someone else hold something? If this video hit home for you, hit the like button. It helps more people find this who need it. And subscribe if you want to keep going deeper. There's so much more where this came from.